Hey, how's it going? Parker Welbeck here with FulltimeFilmmaker.com, and today we're going to be comparing the relatively new Canon EOS R to the 5D Mark IV. And I'm joined by my team members Jake and Landon to help conduct this head-to-head shootout to help you know which of these two cameras is going to be a better buy specifically for videography. Take it away, boys.
Now, when Canon launched their EOS R, I think it's safe to say we were all pretty underwhelmed. It just felt like a mirrorless version of the 5D Mark IV, both a new lens mount and a few different specs. So the question we constantly get asked is which of these should you buy? Or if you already own the 5D Mark IV, should you switch to the EOS R? So that's what we're going to discuss in this video.
So first we're going to show you footage of each camera side by side and have you vote on which one you think is best. And then we're going to break down the pros and cons of each camera and which we personally think is a better tool that meets our needs as professional videographers. So check it out.
Alright, so which do you think looked better? We asked our full-time filmmaker students and our Instagram followers, and without telling them which was which, nobody could tell a difference. Whichever video we put on top of the comparison got more votes, so there was never a standout winner. So that should tell you right off the bat that either of these cameras are going to be great, since most people can't tell the difference. But there are in fact some differences to be aware of and pros and cons to each camera, so now let's discuss some of those differences to give you an idea of which of these tools is best for you.
First, let's talk about price. Now, this is one of the biggest advantages of the EOS R, costing just $1,800 as of the making of this video, compared to the 5D Mark IV, which starts at $2,500. However, the EOS R does have an RF lens mount, so if you're wanting to use your EF lenses on this camera, you'll need to purchase an adapter, which will cost you $100 for the basic one, or $200 for an adapter with the RF control ring. And we'll talk about the different mounts and lens options shortly, but for the body only, the EOS R will save you around $500 to $600.
Next, let's talk about size and portability. The EOS R, being mirrorless, is noticeably smaller, more compact, and comes weighing in at only 1.5 pounds. The Mark IV is a little bulkier and comes in weighing 2.3 pounds. So there's definitely a noticeable difference in weight, which makes the EOS R easier to shoot on for longer periods of time, easier to vlog on, and easier to travel with in general. So point to the EOS R.
Next up is build quality. Now, both cameras are built from the same material and both feel very durable, but because the EOS R has a flip out screen, it opens up the doors of opportunity for more chances to break. Like if the flip out screen was out and you dropped it, the screen could break off and render the EOS R unusable, whereas the Mark IV is built like a tank, similar to the 1DX Mark II, so we feel like it could withstand a fall a lot better without anything breaking off. So slight point to the Mark IV, but both are built well.
And speaking of the flip screen, which is a better LCD screen? The EOS R comes in with an articulating 3.15-inch LCD touchscreen, while the 5D Mark IV comes with a 3.2-inch LCD touchscreen. So while the Mark IV's touchscreen is barely bigger, the EOS R's LCD screen can flip out, which opens up the door to so many new possibilities like vlogging, low mode, easier ways to shoot, and so much more. Our team used the articulating screen often in Long Beach and also in New York City, and it was always an inconvenience that the Mark IV did not have that same feature. So big point goes to the EOS R for this category for its added versatility.
Flip screen, bueno.
Next, let's compare battery life. Now, both of these cameras use the exact same LPE6 batteries and both have great battery life. According to our field tests, the difference didn't seem quite that drastic, but after a full day of shooting video, the EOS R's battery drained a little bit faster than the Mark IV's, so 5D Mark IV wins this one.
Up next is ease of use. One of our favorite things about Canon is their ease of use. Both the 5D Mark IV and the EOS R have very similar menus, and the buttons on the cameras are all pretty much the same with a few differences. The EOS R simplified their buttons menu and also added a great new touch bar. The touch bar can be customized to whatever function you like, and our team has customized it to adjust our white balance. So instead of going into your settings or tapping a button to bring up your white balance, we can simply swipe left or right to raise or lower the Kelvin. You can also set this touch bar to be ISO, autofocus mode, and a few other options. So while both cameras are super easy to use and very user-friendly, we're going to give the EOS R a slight advantage due to their new touch bar and the added control ring. So point to the EOS R.
Now, speaking of the control ring, let's talk about the lens mount and lens options. The EOS R introduces us to a brand new line of lenses, the RF lenses. Now, most of these lenses will cost you more than the camera itself, like the new 28-70 f2 lens, which comes in at $3,000.
And I'll be honest, the main reason I bought the EOS R was so that I could use the 28-70mm lens. This thing is amazing. It's fast like a prime lens, but versatile like a zoom lens. It is super heavy though. And to be honest, I wasn't overly impressed with the EOS R specs, but I was stoked about the new RF lens lineup.
And Jake and I love and use the RF 35mm, which is only $450. So what makes the RF lenses special? Lower apertures on zoom lenses, and as mentioned, the new control ring. Now on every RF lens, above the focus ring, there is a control ring that you can customize to whatever function best meets your needs. You can set it to adjust your aperture, your ISO, your shutter speed, or your exposure compensation. Now we have it set to ISO so that we can quickly adjust our ISO without having to push any buttons. But like we mentioned earlier, you can buy a $200 adapter for EF lenses with a control ring so that you can use your EF lenses on the EOS R as well, but with the added bonus of a control ring. Now the 5D Mark IV, on the other hand, is an EF mount, which means it can only work with EF lenses. And no, there won't ever be an adapter for EF mounts to use RF lenses. RF lenses were built to be closer to the center, and EF mounts can't get the RF lenses close enough. So the EOS R wins this one by being able to take both EF and RF lenses and having an option for a control ring or ND filter adapter with EF lenses. And no, the autofocus performance doesn't get any worse with these adapters as far as we've been able to tell.
Since we're on the topic of lenses, let's talk about autofocus and focus capabilities. Both cameras rock the dual pixel autofocus system with facial tracking and flexi zone. With the new firmware updated, the EOS R now has eye tracking, which is insanely accurate. And since both cameras are touchscreen, you can drag to focus on set if you want to. The main feature that separates the EOS R from the 5D Mark IV is focus peaking. Yes, Canon finally put focus peaking into one of their non-cinema cameras. So to all my manual focus users out there, you'll be happy to see that you can now visibly see what part of your shot is in focus and customize that setting by adjusting the level to low or high into red, yellow, or blue. Canon's been way behind the competition with this feature, so we were very pleased to see it was included with the EOS R. So huge point goes to the EOS R because the 5D Mark IV does not have focus peaking.
Next, let's talk about what everyone complains about on both of these cameras: resolution and frame rates. Now this category was pretty even because the 5D Mark IV and the EOS R both have very similar, if not identical specs. Both can shoot up to 120 frames per second at 720p, 60 frames per second at 1080, or up to 30 frames per second in 4K. However, when shooting in 4K, they both have the notoriously annoying 1.74 times crop, so your fancy 28-70mm lens turns into about a 50 to 120mm. Now that is the single biggest drawback to these cameras and a big reason why many video shooters won't touch it, and honestly that's fine for the 5D Mark IV because of how old it is, but with all the new cameras coming out, you'd think that Canon would have figured out a solution to the 4K crop, but I guess not. So with that, we'll give this category a draw.
Next category is color depth. This is probably the biggest difference between the video specs of these two cameras, is that the EOS R allows you to shoot 10-bit color depth to an external recorder, whereas the Mark IV can only shoot 8-bit. This basically means that you can capture twice as much color information, which will allow you to push and pull colors further in post without the image falling apart. So big point here to the EOS R.
Next category is dynamic range. The EOS R at 800 ISO can produce up to 14.1 stops of dynamic range, while the 5D Mark IV produces 12 stops of dynamic range at 400 ISO or above. When we took the EOS R to Long Beach, this was definitely something we noticed when reviewing the two cameras. Just those extra 2 stops of dynamic range make a big difference in retaining that shadow and highlight detail. So point goes to the EOS R on this one. And though they both can shoot C-Log, the EOS R comes with C-Log capabilities, while the Mark IV requires you to ship your camera off to Canon to get it upgraded. So just something to keep in mind there as well.
Now on to time lapses. Time lapses and hyperlapses are becoming increasingly popular with all styles of filmmaking, so you want a camera that can do it best. Now the EOS R can record video time lapses, meaning it'll record for a specified length of time, then automatically create the time lapse for you and save it as an MP4 file. However, the EOS R does not have a built-in intervalometer, so it can't automatically take high-res photos continuously over a period of time, but the Mark IV can. Now the Mark IV can do both video time lapses and photo time lapses. Photo time lapses allow you to adjust all the raw settings of your time lapse, which allows for the best best possible outcomes and the highest quality. Video time lapses aren't raw, and there isn't as much you can do with them, while they might be easier to put together. Now, there are tools that you can buy, like external intervalometers that can plug into the EOS R and do the photo time lapses, but for in-body features, the Mark IV is the clear winner here.
Now on to stabilization. The new EOS R comes with digital image stabilization that works pretty well. No, it's not as good as IBIS, but it's better than nothing. And yes, like any digital stabilizer, whether it's in camera or in post, it does slightly crop your image. But if you're into a lot of handheld shooting, this feature will probably be a huge plus for you. Like any image stabilization, there are hiccups here and there while it tries to correct your handheld movements and sometimes overcorrects, but if you're making an effort to keep the camera steady, stabilization will take care of the rest. The Mark IV does not come with image stabilization, so huge point to the EOS R.
Up next is the memory card options for recording. Now, this is where the EOS R is a little bit limited due to it only having one card slot, and that one card slot being SD. But maybe that doesn't matter to you, and maybe that's all you need. But with dual recording becoming more and more popular, this is definitely a drawback. The 5D Mark IV has two card slots, one for SD and one for CF, which allows you to record to both at the same time. This is a super helpful feature in case one card gets damaged or corrupted. You can record externally on the EOS R using something like the Atmos Ninja with an SSD, but as for what the camera comes with, the Mark IV is a big winner here.
Moving on to our next performance test is how well these cameras do in low light. We did a couple of side-by-side comparisons of these cameras with the exact same settings and the exact same lenses. The EOS R outperformed the 5D Mark IV and preserved the detail in the shadows and highlights much better than the Mark IV did. This scene is just clearer with less noise and better detail, so point to the EOS R.
Now, I know this is more of a video comparison, but I had to throw this in. When it comes to photography, which is a big reason why I bought the EOS R, the biggest drawback that I found is that it's pretty slow in processing photos. I photographed my sister's wedding on the EOS R, and I love just about everything about my experience, except for the speed at which it takes photos. The 5D Mark IV can shoot 7 frames per second with full autofocus, while the EOS R shoots only 5 stills per second on full autofocus. Not a huge difference, but enough to feel slower. So if I were a photographer first and video guy second, I would definitely choose the 5D Mark IV over the EOS R.
All right, finally onto the last category, which is overall image quality. So after adding up the points from the test that we did, the EOS R is the clear winner, and if we had to choose one of the cameras to be our main camera for shooting video, we'd all choose the EOS R over the Mark IV. But as Parker mentioned, for photographers who need faster frame rates and dual card slots, the Mark IV might be your better option, but for video first people, the EOS R is our declared winner. In fact, just a few weeks ago, we took it to New York City to create a cinematic travel video, so if you haven't already, check out that video here. That video was shot entirely on the EOS R, and you can see the amazing quality you can get out of this camera just shooting at 1080p.
Now, my personal note here, I wouldn't say I was impressed with the EOS R. It definitely has things I love, and I don't think it deserves as much hate as it's gotten, but comparing it to my main camera, the 1DX Mark II, which should be better at 3 times the price, or comparing it to cameras in a similar price range like the Sony a7 III, there's things that bother me about the EOS R, like the 4K crop, the 1 SD card slot, but there's things I like better than my 1DX Mark II, like the flip screen, the much smaller form factor, the RF lens lineup, the higher resolution stills, and those are the main reasons why I bought this camera. And even though I did buy an EOS R and I do like it well enough, what I'm really excited about is the Pro version of the EOS R that Canon has promised, but for the price compared to the 5D Mark IV, my overall opinion of the EOS R as a video camera is positive. I think it's a great camera that can be used professionally. But that's it, guys, for our comparison of these two cameras. Hopefully it helped you decide which one is better for you. Also, as our team continues to grow, we're gonna have more manpower to produce more videos like this, so leave in the comments below, letting us know what gear you'd like us to compare next, or ideas for content you'd like to see on this channel. And as always, if you'd like to learn more about how to become a master at achieving cinematic shots, you can join our online film school at fulltimefilmmaker.com, or to see a preview of the course, you can sign up over here by checking out our free 1-hour filmmaking training. But that's it, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you have any further questions, please let me know.